Welcome to episode 3 of the Show Bat podcast. I'm out here with Scooter Jeanette. Scoot, who we got with us today?
We got some really good guests here, and it's an honor to have you both. Clyde Metcalf, Mike Metcalf, his son. I'm going to fill all the listeners in here on just what they've done in their careers as coaches and teachers. Get that out of the way. Clyde, from 1981 to 2021, you were the head coach for Sarasota High. You were an FSU grad, 950 plus wins, which is insane because I think we only played, about 30 games a year or so. 2 national titles, 6 state championships, 200, you coached 200 plus college players that went on to play college. 70 plus pro players that ended up getting drafted at some point in their career, 14 major league players that made it to the major leagues. You were USA Today Coach of the Year 2 times, which is not easy to do. You were also the athletic director for 22 years. And you are also an assistant football coach for 20 years, which is amazing to me.
That's pretty good too.
Yeah, you're pretty good. And to you, Mike, you're a Sarasota High graduate. You played 4 years of college ball, graduated from the University of West Florida. You coached Charlotte High School for 5 years, also coached a couple big leaguers, I believe.
Yep.
And that
Florida.
Yeah, some good guys. You were coach at South Florida Community College for a year. And then from there, you went on to scout for the Giants for 11 years. You were part of 3 World Series teams. You obviously drafted a few of the local guys that we know.
Yeah. Cody Brickhouse.
Cody Brickhouse.
Sent Cody out. McCray. Grant sent Grant
he's ready to break in.
Yeah.
Grant, we're all proud of you and looking forward to seeing you on TV soon. And then you went on and you were assistant coach and recruiter for FSU for 3 years.
Yep.
And then now you're with the Tigers.
Yep, back with the Tigers.
What are you doing with them?
Cross-checking the East Coast.
Okay. So
oversee the East Coast, all the area scouts from Puerto Rico, Florida, Virginia, north through Canada.
Okay, perfect. And that's when you're cross-checking, that's a big job as a scout. You're kind of you're up there for all the parents that don't really know.
Quite the baseball family, you say, huh?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think this podcast, what we're trying to do is we're trying to, number one, give advice to the younger athletes, right? And also their parents. They're involved. They should be if you're not. And it's a big deal for them as well. So if we can give them advice, great. We're already winning. And then, feel free to speak your mind and anything in your heart or anything else you want to help or do. But my first question, I'll go odds on these questions.
Gotcha.
You can go evens. In your experience, both of you, feel free to share the question. In your experience as high school head coaches, what does it take for a player to reach a point in their high school career that you're like, man, I really need to start talking to some college coaches or recruiters about this kid? What stands out?
I think the athleticism and the way the body moves and the way you go about your business, not just between the lines, but in the dugout when people aren't watching. Are you a guy that stands out, sticks out as a leader, that then can go between the lines, be athletic, make athletic moves, and perform? Performance is important. We don't turn on the TV every night and say, oh, look, John stinks, right? Performance is important, but I think it's how you go about that. And I think there's a lot of different ways to acquire that athleticism. There's a lot of different ways to be seen athletically on the field, but everybody moves different. I think just that pure athleticism, physicality is important. I'm big on the body and the strength that the body has and how it moves and how it's coordinated up between the lines. And then again, how you act off the field, how you act in the dugout, how you act pregame at practice, that type of stuff. You start checking off boxes of being athletic, being physical, being strong, performance, and doing it right off the field. it's time to start thinking about the college recruiting process.
So as a scout, this is part into the same question. You have 6 tools you're scouting, right? Well, 5,
Absolutely 6 tools.
but then the 6, I think a lot of people don't understand that, like parents out
Yeah,
there.
I mean,
it's the makeup.
It's the
right?
makeup, right?
And do you see that? Like you can see a kid warm up, talk to his teammates, how he interacts. You're like, I kind of like it, like this guy.
Yeah,
Really cares.
absolutely. Like the makeup part of it's huge. That's the separator in the college clubhouse that I experienced for the 3 years there, and that's also the separator to get to the big leagues. Because it's a grind. It's hard. Like college baseball is hard. Professional baseball is hard. So what's the the separator for me is that 6th tool, that makeup. And there's a million different ways to see makeup, and makeup isn't necessarily always the player you want to marry your daughter. You know what I mean? It's how they go about their business, how they work between the lines, how they work with their teammates at practice, how they act in the bleachers waiting for the second game to start,
Every little thing.
every little thing. And I don't have a problem with a guy eating a cheeseburger in the bleachers before a game, if there's a game going on. But if he's eating a cheeseburger and acting like a fool, then you have to start digging a little bit deeper on what type of kid this is. But I think that the makeup is a separator when it comes to who does and does not, both at the college and professional level.
Right. And for you, Clyde, talking to colleges.
Yeah.
I mean, you coached
I
200 college players.
Yeah, I check all those boxes that Mike said, but I think the biggest thing, if you're looking at it from a high school coach's perspective, and how about if we say a high school coach's perspective or a travel ball coach's perspective, because we know that plays a major role in it now too. I think one of the biggest things is that I felt over the years is that we had to feel confident that if we were pushing a name, Scooter Jeanette, you were committed to Florida State, you played for me. If we were pushing the name Scooter Jeanette to Florida State, we had to believe that you were a fit and that you could be successful. I think your name with scouts and with college coaches means a great deal. And I used to have, when I was coaching, a lot of parents would come to me and say, my son would really like to go to the University of Florida. And I happened to be the honest guy that would look back at him and say, your son's not a fit there.
Right.
Your son can't play there.
It's not what's best.
Yeah, it's not what's best for him. But I'll tell you what we could do. He's a good academic kid. Maybe we look at a D2. Well, that's his dream. My dream was to be Joe Torre. I wanted to catch for the 2 best organizations in baseball and manage them as well.
Right. Sometimes
that your dream doesn't happen. So I think honesty from a high school coach's standpoint or a travel coach's standpoint is very important, that you put it out there. Parents are making a really big investment financially and time-wise to their children.
They deserve the honesty.
They deserve honesty. But I think I think what Mike said, makeup plays such a big role in it. Be the first guy out of the dugout. Don't be the last guy out of the dugout. Be the first guy back to the dugout. Don't be the last guy out of it. When you're in the on deck circle, be attentive to what's going on in the ball game. Be attentive to the opposing pitcher.
No selfies on deck.
No selfies. No talking to the person in the bleachers. Right. No playing. Your gloves take care of themselves. I think those little things are things that if someone's grinding down on someone, be it a pro or a college recruiter, pro scout, those are the things that make the difference. Because quite frankly, if they're a good enough player to be there, they're a good enough player to be there.
And they're looking at all this. That's their job.
They're looking at it.
Yeah. I mean,
they're getting paid to look.
That guy that makes an out, and comes into the dugout and slams his helmet against the wall.
Right.
In a game of failure, that's probably not a really good thing to show somebody that's there watching,
especially in the longevity of a season.
Correct.
Yeah.
40 games in minor leagues.
Right.
60 in college.
We used to always tell our guys, if you can hit 300 every year you play baseball, you're going to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
And that means you fail 7 out of 10 times. So I agree with everything Mike said. I just think also that coaches have a responsibility to be honest to parents, and sometimes that's tough.
Right.
And to add to that, I think on the flip side, as a parent now, of a teenage player, I think it's important for the parents and the family to be honest as well. And be able to look themselves in the mirror and say, have you done everything you can? Yes, okay. This is the pack of schools or teams that you fit in, and then go.
Right.
Because again, everybody wants to go to Florida State, and Miami. Trust me, I get it.
Just being.
I get it. But be realistic and understand that. I mean, Von Brown, a Sarasota High product, went to Florida Southern and was the only position player taken in the top 10 rounds of the 2020 draft by the Giants. And he's a high prospect, and he was at Florida Southern. You know what I mean?
Kept grinding, kept
grinding. I mean, and I mean, it's
that D2 ball is competitive too.
yeah.
Oh, that's a good league.
Listen, man, like they're from everywhere. They come from everywhere. I mean, it's amazing when you start going down, and that's something that parents should do. And kids take a look at the rosters of the big league clubs and see what colleges they come from, see what towns they come from.
Yeah.
But it's also important too, what he just said, to look in the mirror and ask yourself, have you done everything that you can do to maximize your ability right now?
Yeah.
Most young men, to be honest with you, the answer would be no.
Right.
So part of the goal with the whole podcast is obviously to get back to the player, but leading into what you said, the parent as well. So I'll start with you, Mike. So what would be some guidance that you would give to a parent that could help their young player succeed in this game?
Yeah.
What you could do as a parent behind the scenes, what you could do as a parent in the bleachers, how you can control yourself, your conduct, how that could be detrimental to a scout that's viewing in as well. And what are things you can do in a positive way to help your kid, and what are some negative things?
Like the parents over there just yelling.
Yeah.
Keep swinging that son.
But they think it's okay.
Yeah.
They don't realize that you have a scout from.
I put a picture in my
Giants.
mind when you're asking that question.
Yeah. I mean, I think, look, it's okay to be passionate about your kid, right? Like that's your kid out there. You understand like what they've done to get to that moment in time right there, that pitch, that at bat, that ground ball. And you want to be passionate, but at the same time, like I would tell recruits all the time, like, and this is the truth. I mean, Scooter, you know this, like at some point, baseball comes to an end. You may be 21, 31, 41. You may be lucky enough, like myself and my dad, to stay in it until we're whatever ages we are. But at some point, it comes to an end. So it's okay to be passionate, but sit back and enjoy the ride. Because nothing that we can do as parents, and I was guilty of it when my son was young, was I'd want to say something to him in the middle of a game, and I'd stay back because nothing we can say in that moment is going to change what the production of the outcome is going to be. Now, afterwards, if you want to talk to them, yeah, absolutely. Because you're the one that's with them all the time. But I think it's important to just sit back, enjoy the ride. Because at some point, we all finish baseball as a player.
Yeah.
So sit back and enjoy the ride. I think that, the parents that are loud and aggressive, everybody has their own opinion on that. Like, I don't really get it. I think there's a line that can be crossed, but I also understand the passion they have. And I think there's that fine line of, oh, wait a second, is this going to be how it is when he's an A-ball in the middle of the season?
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's a conversation that, most teams and colleges will probably have,
Sure.
right? But I understand the concept and the passion that parents have. I would say to just sit back and enjoy that ride every inning, every pitch that you can in the bleachers, and try to just let the game be played. The umpires aren't going to be good sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, then from like a pro and a collegiate level, right?
Yeah.
The battery level is a little bit higher, right? Like
Sure.
You're going to give these kids are already talented, so you might stretch it a little bit with the parent.
Sure.
Now to the high school level, where you have a bubble player trying to
Right.
make the team, and mom and dad are in the stands, and they can't stop, for better lack of words,
Can't
right?
control themselves.
Yeah, there you can,
Can't
What-
let go. Like
We-
really, like the coaches that you
Absolutely.
chose that school for them to go to. You should have done your due diligence.
Right.
Let them coach your kid. It's kind of like giving up a little bit of control as a parent and letting them just.
Right.
And we
Do the
preach it
thing.
all the time to our kids that come through the travel program at a young age, right? When you get to high school, it's gonna be different, buddy. When you get to high school, it's gonna be different, buddy. Your coach, they're not gonna deal with mom and dad in the stands anymore. Is that accurate?
Well, I used to have a parent meeting every year. And when we had our parent meeting, players would attend. they probably didn't listen to much I said because they had listened to me for 3 hours prior on the field, but I know one guy that did.
Yeah, I listen.
But, and we had the parents there. What I always told the parents was this, you know, you only get to do this once. And basically what Mike said, enjoy it. You know, I had the pleasure of coaching my own son. You know, that's tough. He also was a catcher. So he had to look at me to get every sign for every pitch of his career. So, you know, there was like a connection eye to eye 100 times a game. Hopefully 70 times a game, where pitchers had good control. But, you know, what we did when we left the field and we went home, we sat down as a family for dinner. We didn't talk about baseball. We got all that stuff done at the field. What I asked our parents to do was totally opposite of that. I told our parents, do me a favor. When we're at the ball field, let the coaches coach. I had one parent that was a pretty aggressive parent, who was an attorney. And I used the example without pointing it out to him. I said, if you're an attorney, I promise you I won't walk into your office one day in a coat and tie and say, hey man, let's go to court, because I don't know how to do that. I'm a coach. You know what I mean?
You'd probably be pretty decent.
I might. But I told the parents, when you get home, fix everything we screwed up. Fix everything we screwed up. So, you know, if Joe Jeanette was at practice, and we never messed with him, but if he saw us say something to him offensively or defensively, at the dinner table was a time for him to say, Scoot, you know, I know they were telling you to do this, but you seem to have better success doing this.
Time and place.
But at the field, enjoy the ride and let the coaches coach. And I think that's, if it's a 9-year-old or a 19-year-old senior in high school, I think that's pretty good advice.
That leads me into the next question, real quick too, just kind of quick advice. We all know there are good teams to play for, good high school programs to play for, and not so good, but what advice would you give an incoming freshman and their parents on, like, what are they looking for to choose a school, and looking at the coaching staff? Like nowadays it's a little different from when you first started. You know, now you got school of choice, you can go pretty much wherever you want, but like, if you could pick, what's the ideal place as a parent and as a player, like that coaching, like what are you looking for?
There you go. Whatever you want to do, big guy.
And you guys are, I mean, you guys can probably speak for each other, so like, it doesn't matter which one.
Look, I would say look for an opportunity that's provided every day for my son to reach his maximum potential on the field, but also be held responsible for the minute-to-minute actions he has to build him as a adult, not just a baseball player. Because again, I go back to this, and you know, you run the guys I've recruited, like baseball comes to an end. I am a firm believer that productive adults are built on athletic fields. So I would say look for a program that's going to provide ample opportunity every day to reach their potential as a player, but also as a person.
It's a good, I mean, that's a great answer.
I think one of the things that parents fall into is that they take a look at a roster. So, you know, you're talking about a 9th grader. And, you know, my son's in 8th grade. I look and there's a 9th grade shortstop there that's really good. He's really good. So I dodge that kid and I go to another school. I think what Mike's saying is exactly right. I want to put my son in a position where he has an opportunity every day to be a better person,
right,
and a better ball player,
and develop and get better.
You know, like I'll say this real quick. 4 of the best shortstops that I ever had in my program didn't play shortstop early in their career. Ian Desmond, Casey Kelly, Scooter Jeanette, Mark Sobolewski. And the reason they didn't is because they had a guy in front of them.
But they got better, they learned.
But they got better, and they ended up being shortstops in our program.
Right.
You know, and then they went and played pro ball.
That's a really good point.
And so I think instead of taking a look at rosters, you take a look at, you know, who's going to work with my son on a daily basis, who's going to provide a good example. Who's gonna make him a better who's gonna make sure that he's keeping up academically, that if he gets in trouble in a classroom, he's gonna have a consequence. Yeah, so I think that's what you have.
We'll
Really
get
have
into
to
some
do.
of my experience.
We won't do that today.
Yeah.
That'll be for another podcast.
Yeah, well,
Every University of Alabama quarterback seems to do all right in the draft, right?
Exactly.
Sitting behind the guy.
Exactly.
And they learn a lot about becoming a man and
Yeah.
how to become a better athlete.
Yeah.
Maybe even how to manage your money a little bit better. All the things that you can learn being behind a dude.
And you don't do that
I
by
love
looking
that.
at rosters.
I love that.
And I think we're in an instant gratification world right now, right? It's all about how many likes you get immediately.
Yeah.
It's all about that instant gratification. And at the end of the day, like, I think, you know, the catchphrases that you read on social media, the grind and trust the process and all that, you know what, those are actually real, right? But what's your process,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, you know, going in and being part of that shortstop example or the quarterback example of going through a process of learning how to be great,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a good process to be a part of.
it's kind of being vulnerable and not being, oh, I'm the best player on the team. Like, I need to get better. Like, my
Right.
career is like, I need to make this team. I need to make Sarasota High's team. I don't care. Throw me wherever. I just want to learn and get better. But it's just like, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that, you know, parents have to look at. But from what I got from that is, it's not the depth chart. It's not the roster of the players like, okay, that guy's really good, I'm not going to go there. No, that's the school you want to go to, because they're going to push you way harder. You got to earn that spot rather than just give it to them.
And it's a great environment to learn that, because it goes back to the Alabama quarterbacks. But at the end of the day, like, ultimately, if you want to go play college baseball, they're going to have older players on that roster that are good that you're going to have to compete against and try to beat out. If you want to play professional baseball, they're going to have really good players rolling out there, you know, on the backfields for those 1 o'clock first pitches, all the way up to the AAA 7 o'clock first pitch. When at any point a call could come in, a guy get caught off the field and get ready to get on the plane to go to the big leagues, right? Like all the way through. That's what it
their
is.
job is to bring in someone better than you
Yep.
every year.
Right.
That's their job.
Yeah.
You know, you can talk to all the college coaches and stuff like that. Like what, you know, what's your main objective? We got to continue to improve our roster,
Absolutely.
right? Every year. Hey, LSU just won World Series. They were awesome.
Yep.
You know what they did? The next day went to try to improve their roster.
Make it work.
And that's what you do.
All right, guys. So, what are some of your guys' most memorable moments as coaches? Ty, let's start with you.
Too many to count. I mean, anytime you win a state championship, obviously that's a very special thing. We were lucky enough to do it 6 times when I was there, but it's funny because my last, I don't know, 12 years or something, we didn't, and people were like, you know, do you feel you missed out on something? And I think of all the guys that I always felt were great coaches that never won one. I know how lucky I was, but I mean, that to me, those years were incredible when you're the last team standing, so to speak. To be able to, you know, just watch your kids celebrate. And every time we won one, I stood in the dugout and watched, because I knew the work they put in. You know, I knew what they did. I knew what they did to get there. Those coached some great kids, you know, and I think coaching my son was probably a highlight for me, because to have an opportunity to do that, and then, you know, to watch him celebrate 2 state championships too. Those were great memories. But I'll be honest with you, man, our coaches always had a philosophy. We would enjoy the season for a day or two, and we moved to the next year. And that grind of it, with people you enjoy coaching with, players you enjoy being with, parents that supported you, it's really great memories. But I guess those state championships probably stand out the most.
How about you?
Probably my first career win as a high school coach with Laporta and Spears and the crew. Happened to come at Sarasota High against my class. Sorry, I would agree. Like,
You lost to them, man.
hey, we're all right.
It's good.
No, I would say
I had a big leaguer on the team.
That's right. 2 big leaguers were on the team.
I would say probably like being born and raised in Sarasota, being part of the Sarasota High program with my dad starting that thing. I shouldn't say starting it, continuing the rise of Sarasota High baseball. Being able to go there for 4 years and create such memories, winning the state championships. I would say that probably one of my better moments or memories was our senior year when we lost in the regional final. Sean Figgins at shortstop at Brandon High School turned a double play on me. And you look at it for about 10 years and you're like, that's a kick in the gut. But just the way the players, your friends, the people that were in your wedding, whatever years down the road, sorry, I can't remember how many years that was separation, but like how they pick you up, they stay behind you. And I think that's part of just like life, right? Like it built me. You have to get kicked in the midsection to become a successful person. I think that was one of the major, like, it sounds terrible, but I think that made me who I am. I'm not going to lose each day anymore. Obviously winning 3 World Series with the Giants, as a scout, the amount of time that is invested by me personally, but the amount of time that I'm away from the family and scouts are away from the family, and the ability for my wife and my kids to sit there and watch the games and live and die on every pitch because, it means something to them. That's pretty big. And then I think my favorite memory, and it has nothing to do with either of us being on the field or my kids or my wife or my mother. I think it was in the fall of 18, maybe. Ian Desmond was with the Rockies. Casey Kelly was with the Giants. My dad and my son's birthdays are in the same month, and I was able to get my mom, my dad, and the 4 of us out to San Francisco for a weekend series and let him stand on the field, see 2 of his former players, let my kids see the 2 former players that they've seen at the field at Sarasota High. I think that was a pretty cool memory, because it kind of just brings everything around, right? Like what he's done as a high school coach, and there's 2 of his big leaguers. What my son got to see with Scooter and Ian and Casey out of the field when I was on the road, and my wife to be able to get into the stadium and see what that's like, what that's about. My daughter and my mom to see his successes, but also I thought that was a pretty cool memory. I mean, look, we've done some cool stuff. I mean, we've had some pretty fun times with baseball and in life in general. But like, just to be able to have everybody together and kind of like, you're in San Francisco, who I'm working for, with 2 former players and the entire family there for the weekend. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's full circle.
Yeah, right. And like it was cool. It was cool.
So let's get into some maybe you guys can lead it how you want, but I mean, we're not at this alone, right? Like there's family behind the scenes. Like I'm out there playing on the field, but yet my wife's there at home, getting ready to do whatever, make food, take care of the kid, walk the dog, do all the things that we can't do when we're not there. So Clyde, for you especially here, I worded this question perfectly, so I'm going to read it right off the script. Clyde, how in the world did you manage coaching 40 plus years, and during that whole time you taught as a teacher, you were the AD for 20 years, and even coached football for 20 years on top of that as an assistant coach. And how did you my wife was best friends with your daughter, Robin.
Yeah.
And she told me, and I got to give a shout out to Kelsey and Robin on this one, that Clyde was always there. He was a family man. And Mike, I'm sure you can attest to this. To me, that's insane. Like how you manage to do all that. So how are you able to do all that on top of that being present in your kid's life? How did you do it?
Well, I'll tell you what, number one, I did it because of Jan. Because, my wife made it happen.
Of course. And shout out to Jan.
Shout out to Jan, yeah, Jan. Shout out to
say.
Yeah, no, I know. Well, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, she made it happen.
How?
It was an interesting dynamic because I was going a lot. Okay. But she made sure that we ate dinner as a family together every possible time we could. We would sit at the dining room table. We would talk about our day. I would try to help the kids with the homework, although she was the general. They'd get home, by God, they'd sit down and do their homework. Maybe if they had a little math problem or something, I'd help them. But it falls back on the kids and on her, Because if there was a day, and it really got into play when I was the athletic director, you know, if I had to cover a volleyball match, you could count on the fact that Mike and Jackie and Robin were gonna be in the bleachers with Jan at the volleyball
So
match.
family time.
So at my job, and, you know, Jan and I laughed about it then, and we laugh about it now, you know, our kids were really raised in a locker room and in a gym and on a baseball field. You know, and it's what a great place to raise a kid, because they were around really good people. You know, the people that I coached with, the people that you know, coached other sports at Surfing High, they were family people, they were great people, they were great examples for my children. The athletes, I mean, you know, when these guys, when Jackie and Mike and Robin were 5 years old, they'd be sitting in the student section. You know, Kelsey would be with Robin in the student section. You know, some people say, oh, you know, what did they hear? They didn't hear anything they weren't going to hear anyway. They were around really good kids. Kids were at the game. So to me, it was kind of a community project, you know, and, you know, I hope I played a role in it, you know,
Definitely did.
but it was, you know, Jan played a much greater role, but it was a community project. It was the people that I worked with, the people Jan worked with, and the students.
What a blessing. Like, I mean, I'm a believer, but like, wow, what a blessing to like have not only the time and the capability that you had to, you know, father your children and their, you know, be a part of their your grandkids, but also, you know, tackle helping me out, helping numerous other people. I mean, that's a blessing. Right?
Well, and obviously I had support at home in doing that, because if I was supposed to be home at 5:30 and I got home at 6:30, I got home at 6:30. You know, it was like not a good day today on the field. No, not necessarily. You know, but we got it done. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's that family support and community, like I say, community support, because these guys have memories of a lot of our friends that played major roles in their lives. You know, so we were very fortunate. Yeah,
really
very fortunate.
Clearly, you had a great role model growing up, and somebody that was around you all the time. When did you decide that coaching was the route you wanted to take in life?
Yeah, I mean,
how much influence did Clyde have on you during this whole process?
Yeah, I mean, Friday night I went and watched Riverview High play Manatee, because a guy that grew up in the same gym I did, Josh Smithers, is the head coach, and one of the linebackers is Matt Marster's son, who I grew up with through sports and athletics. And I think that like I wanted to coach because, and it's the reason I went back for a little bit to Florida State, was because I just saw what a difference a community can make in people, right? Like, you know, teaching how to field a ground ball, teaching how to read, like those are cool, those are important, but just being good people, like learning how to be a good person, was big for me. So once I got to West Florida, you know, I went into the education field, because I knew that I could get a job teaching, you know, and it seemed to work out pretty good for him, you know, and so I got that done and had the opportunity to, probably too young of an age to be a head coach down in Charlotte. Like Dave Tillett is who I took over for, who's been a longtime Florida Gulf Coast head coach, and we laugh now at some of the stuff that I did when I was young. About just, you know, I got it all figured out. And
How old were you when you took that?
shoot, 23, I think.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So and it was, you know, thankful to Dave, who hooked me up, helped me out with that. And it was a great start. It was a great, you know, I look back at it still today and, you know, talk to young guys about how to go about it once you get out in the world. But I think that was the key, was like being able to be a bigger part of somebody's life and make some sort of difference, right? Like, even if it's man, I hated Metcalf. I'm Mike Metcalf. I'm never going to act the way he did if I coach. Hey man, cool, right? Like that's, for me, that's a victory, because he took something from me, right? Like, I don't know that there were many that did that, but
And
that was
so,
yeah. We got you. You're good. All good. No, but I mean, I think that's important, right? Not, you know, and that was the major factor for me, was being part of that athletic department, that school community, and that community, the town that the school's in, of being able to, you know, make a difference in somebody.
Are you still enjoying coaching and being part of the game the same way now? and I won't age you, but whatever age you're at now, as opposed to 23.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not coaching anymore because some stuff went down, but I did enjoy it. It was good to be in the clubhouse, working with the older players. I mean, I still get some texts from guys just in that short period, but I did enjoy it. I think it's more important now than ever to have good coaches that do it for the right reasons, and that's to help those players. The field itself is important. We want all our kids to be awesome, but we want all of our kids to also grow and be really good adults too.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a major key to the coaching world and that profession that I hope is not getting passed by. I would say that on the scouting side of it, I do get around players a lot. I get to talk to players, and that's always good just to hear them and talk to them. And you know, if they ask a question, I can answer it. But just being around it, you know, I go out to the youth fields, so well, not youth anymore, but the high school fields where my kid plays, and you know, if there's something there, and they ask, I enjoy that.
You'll always be coach.
I will, yeah. I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, again, like, you know, it's when you're born in it, raised in it, and it's actually a pretty cool life that you live to this point. Hard not to be a coach.
We got to bring Mark on here just for a second. Mark, you want to come show your face? This is my son Mark. He hopefully here in a year or so will be playing some college baseball. Can you say anything to your grandpa or your dad that you would like to get off your chest and just be thankful about?
I mean, nothing I'd really like to get off my chest, but something like how when he was gone for scouting, I would always be at his field or surrounded by big leaguers, and it was awesome because I got to learn like Ian Desmond and you were part of taught me how to field ground balls and how to field ground balls and how to hit. Whenever he'd be home, he'd take me on an Easter trip every year, and we'd go for about a week and a half of me just going to baseball games to see really good players play.
That's
It was
awesome. What about now? Are you ready for the next level?
I'm
putting in your work.
I'm really ready for the next level, and I feel like since he's been home more, it's been a lot better and helping me get better as a person and playing baseball.
Nice. Well, good for you, Mark.
Yeah.
You're a smart kid. We gotta give a piece of the camera now as you're going out. All right, I'm gonna kick you out. One of the questions we had were, Mike, like, what do you do now? Obviously, you're with the Tigers, back with the Tigers. So scouting kind of just, is that down the road for you? Something you're gonna stick with, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's I enjoy it. I mean, it's hard being gone when you're gone. I think it makes being home more special when you're home.
Right.
But the ability to go out and work with a lot of really good baseball people and talk baseball and evaluate, and I mean, we go out and create an opinion on a player, and we all have different ways and reasons we create them.
You got your analytic guys.
Yeah, and it's great. I love it. Like,
hard, right?
yeah, I love it. And yeah, I'm always learning, you know, and I think it's something. It's an interesting challenge because you have to adapt every year to something new, and learn. And I think that it challenges your brain. It challenges your work ethic. It challenges you as a man to go out and get after it, so that you don't have to worry about that meal the next day being on the table. So I really enjoy it. You know, like he talked about the coaching. Yes, that's always going to be asked, and I would say that the pro side, it's really been good to me. In regards to the people I've met. I mean, last night when we were up in Tampa, I ran into like 4 or 5 guys from different clubs, and you know, when you're on the road, it's not your family, but it's the closest thing you have, and you build really good bonds. And I would say doing it for 11 years with the Giants and then going to Florida State, like probably my hardest thing. The greatest part about going to Florida State, well, one of the greatest ones was being home a lot more, but one of the hardest parts was being away from your circle of friends that you've created and the bonds that you've had. So yeah, I think that's something that it's going to be a major part of my future, is continuing to do the pro side.
And I want to just bring up a couple things. I've been, obviously, when I was playing in high school and after I got drafted, I would see you come out on the weekends. We had some field access out at Sarasota High, but you would have a group of guys that you were coaching, but you weren't their coach, but you were coaching them. I think whenever, you know, you kind of, you get that coaching itch and you see that I made an impact in this guy's life. you're never gonna go away from that.
No.
It's just, you're not coaching for the Tigers right now, you're scouting, but there's guys that you have an impact on.
Sure.
And still probably continue to have on
Right.
former players that you've coached.
Yeah, I mean, on Sundays in Tallahassee, now that it's slowed down, we'll be out with a group of his buddies in Tallahassee and we hit and. I'm not gonna jump in and just change things. Like I'm not a changer. Like you don't have to, everything. All shapes and everybody comes in a little bit different package.
Right.
And everybody's bodies move different. So I'm not a tweaker, a changer, but like if guys ask questions, yeah, absolutely. Like I'll say what I see,
They're getting the reps in, you're out there
Right,
to help
and it's
them
fun.
if they are receptive.
Right.
to help.
And
I
it's
think that's
baseball.
amazing though, Mike, like,
Yeah,
much respect for that, because you don't have to do that.
No, I
You don't
appreciate
have to do that. I mean, that's extra credit, and that's just you, that just goes to show like how you are as a person, you're willing to help because you have a lot of knowledge to share. Let's get to a fun question here for you, Clyde. Out of all the teams you coach, and this is, I talked to a few former players,
And this is a question I never answered. Go on.
and no, I don't think you have on the record. But out of all the teams you've coached, what team do you think was the best? And what players come to mind as the best that you coached? And please don't mention my name, because I know there was a lot of better players at the high school level than I was. So don't worry about not saying my name. We're not going to do it. You guys already know me. He's going to talk about somebody else. But what's the best team you coached, and what are some of the best players that come to mind, like talent-wise?
I think three, I'll try to answer this, but I can't answer it. I think three teams really stand out.
Okay, that's fine. We'll take that.
In 1989, in 1988, we lost in the state championship to Sandalwood High School. They returned Sandalwood to Jacksonville. They were a powerhouse back then.
Yeah.
They returned their entire team. All 9 starters were Division I signees. And we beat them 9-0, and Ron Scott threw a no-hitter in the state championship game. And we beat their brains in. Now I can tell you, this wouldn't be acceptable now, but in '88, I had to do the press thing, and someone said, "There's a fire in your dugout." Those guys threw the runner-up trophy in the garbage and lit it on fire. I said to them, "Guys, come on," and they said, "Coach, we don't play to be runner-up." So the '89 team was pretty special. I'll mention 3 guys in the order they hit: Ray Suplee, David Ferreira, and Greg Blosser, and nobody wanted to face those guys. And the way they finished the game was double, and then Blosser hit a home run that made it 9-0. It was very fitting.
Special group there.
Special.
Yeah.
94, we also won a national championship. Mike was on that team, and we were loaded. We could have cleared. I honestly felt we could have cleared our bench and won a state championship.
Wow.
We were that good. I really felt that way.
It's like Alabama's like.
Yeah, in
it's like
football.
playing,
I mean,
still
yeah.
getting drafted.
And that team was unbelievable depth, pitching, offensively, ran the bases, defensively, incredible. And then 2007, that was a pretty freaking good team. We won't mention any guys that were on that.
No, it's fine. But 2008 was a disappointment because we had a lot of those.
We had a lot of those guys
But
back.
that's baseball. I mean, it's like.
Well, the unfortunate thing, in 2008, I overcoached. I got us ready to face a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, if you remember.
Yeah.
And we wore that guy out and had him out in the 3rd inning. The next day, we faced a cunny thumb and left-hander. We didn't have a
I
chance.
like how you blame yourself.
But that 2017 was just again, offensively, defensively, on the mound, just really.
Yeah, Casey Kelly, Joe Rapp, Evan Styles, Joey Jagosevich,
We
Mason
had-
Johnson. I mean, a lot of
We had,
everyone went college.
If you
Steve
recall,
Wonder, or got drafted.
if you recall, we brought up Mason Johnson and Robin Rothenbach mid-season,
Yeah.
and that's really took what you guys were doing and just literally solidified it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And Zach Boyd at first base, gotta throw out
Yeah.
Zach. He was always a guy where I would in warm-ups throw the ball over to him. If it wasn't right at his chest, he'd make it look like the worst throw. Like if it was in the ground, he wasn't even trying to pick it, like goes to the backside, I'm like, there's scouts here watching, I don't want to track, just pick the ball. But
He'd pick it in the game.
that,
He'd get it in the
he
game.
just knew I was pissed about my at bat or something. I went far, he's like, yeah, screw
But I
it.
mean, those three teams,
I love you, Zach.
those three teams stand out. The players, we had so many great players, and a lot of the accent was on the mound, guys like Doug Million and Matt Drews and Casey Kelly, James Hauser, the guy that was kind of forgotten, Eric Erickson.
Yeah.
He threw three no-hitters in 1 year.
Troy Graybill.
We had so many great arms.
Yeah.
I mean, even going to the end of my career, Connor Whitaker, we always
And
had
he's
great
doing
arms.
great. And I mean,
Yeah.
what a good kid. What a good family.
Offensively, it's hard. It's, Mike said it earlier. I mean, Ray Lee hit over 500 for us.
Right. How do you beat that?
How you can't. And, he had Greg Blosser hitting behind him, and no one wanted to pitch to Greg because Greg hit balls 9 miles.
Right.
But we had so many great offensive players too. It's tough to just to
It's
say
a tough question.
a player. You know what I mean?
I think your answer was great.
Actually, I'll throw one more. Derek Lilliquist, because Derek not only hit home runs but pitched. So
The whole
there
package.
was a lot of those guys, but yeah, that's about the best I can give you right
By
now.
the way, I saw y'all's 2017, no shot against my 94 team.
Let's run it back.
We had too many injuries, man.
Hey, we go to 17th Street and make that a softball
We
game.
can do it. We can do it. Bonus special.
Oh, man.
Mike, you and I kind of grew up with the similarity of, my dad's a former sheriff in Manatee County for 22 years.
Yeah.
I don't know a bigger celebrity than him. I don't know a bigger legend than him, right? Kind of have the same.
Oh,
thing
yeah.
there. So, my question, Clyde, is nowadays when people bring up Clyde Metcalf, what do you hope they say about you? What are the words that are left behind?
I'm honest to God truth, I've never thought about that.
We finally got on.
I'll say this. I hope that at the end of the day, my legacy is not as the baseball coach at Sarasota High School. I hope that's not my legacy. I think, if people know me, if I run into someone that's like, oh, that's Clyde Metcalf, he coached at Sarasota High. But I'd rather my legacy just be as a guy that, tried every year to take a group of kids, and teach them something, I had a kid a couple of years ago that I ran into, one of my former players, that told me, he said, the greatest thing I ever learned from you was to never be late. Because if you were late to practice, you ran a lap a minute. And if you were late to pregame BP, you ran a lap a minute. Because I told the kids, punctuality will be important to you the rest of your life. I hope that that the guys that played for me, or the kids that I taught, I hope I taught them something that is valuable to them for the rest of their life. That I'm remembered as a family man, and I'm remembered as somebody that cared about the people in our community. But baseball's a part of it. But I hope that's not my legacy.
Well, from my perspective as a former player, I mean, thank you for everything you did for me outside of the field. Obviously, you pushed us on the field, but I felt like you were a friend, like away from the field. Because when we're on the field, it's time for business. Like I'm not going to be, hey, how you doing today when I'm out there coaching on the field? But like you felt like a friend, like a very open, away from the field. And I feel like a lot of coaches, you don't have to be that hard-nosed coach when practice is over. Like that's a time that we're really helping kids, and I feel like you had a good balance of that. You're able to help them in school, help them in life, but then when we're on the field, when we're across those lines, it's game time. And I think that's you want to be known for maybe off the lines.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's like I always and I learned it when I was young and coaching, there are times as a coach where you got to kind of get in a kid's face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the way I coach. You got to yell at him. You got to,
you smell your breath at times.
yeah. And it wasn't always good, it probably smelled like coffee from the morning, but
Wasn't that
the thing of it is that what I always told my coaches was, if you get on a kid, before they leave that day, put your arm around them and let them know you cared about them.
Right,
And let them know there's a reason for what you do.
and that's important.
And I think maybe a lot of times that's forgotten. When I was at AD near the end of my career, I'd go out to some of, our other sports practices and I'd hear coaches, yelling and screaming and, just constantly yelling. And I'd usually tell the head coach, hey, that to me is kind of a sign of ignorance.
Right.
I mean, that's not the way you handle kids, and that's not the way, that you don't garner respect from people. There's a time and a place.
Yep.
You faced it. There's a time and a place. But at the end of the day, you got to put your arm around the kid and say, look, you're going to like me again. We're going to be okay. We'll be okay.
Yeah, and they gotta feel that.
Yeah.
You have to, like, same as like a parent, like, I'm gonna be hard on you, but you gotta know I love you. Like, I'm doing this for your best interest. And I think, especially kids nowadays, but even me, it's like, if you just yell at me and you're yelling and yelling, like, this guy doesn't. But if you're able to
They turn it off.
pull you aside and say, hey, like, I'm doing this to help you, like, just,
They turn it
know
off.
that.
They turn it off.
That's
Yeah.
awesome stuff. Oh, I mean, I am very honored again to have you guys both on the podcast, and I'm in my heart, I'm just happy. I've learned a few things that I didn't know about you too, and just selfishly, I'm excited about that. But I'm excited for you parents and players, young athletes listening in on this. And these guys know what they're talking about. They've been there, done it. Mike's still doing this, still making an impact on whatever field or team he's a part of. There's always something to be done. And I think for me, what I took is being intentional, like really caring about what you're doing, not just for the sport, but also how you're carrying yourself off the field, how you're interacting with your teammates, how you're doing in school. I mean, be the best you can be. Like your resume, you want to have the best resume you could possibly have, to where that next level is college. You got your coach going and possibly talking to college recruits about you. Like, you want the best resume. And for me, I was always like, if I can be the best teammate, like, it kind of takes care of itself, right? I'm going to do what I need to do to prepare for the game. But like, if my main mindset is to be the best teammate I can be at the field, kind of takes care of everything that they're looking for as coaches. Logan, you got anything?
I think that brings episode 3 of the show podcast to an end. We thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Got to give a shout out to the Spot Athletic Center. If you're looking to become a better athlete, check us out in Palmetto, Florida. Bay Area Pro, we touched on travel ball earlier. If you're looking for an organization that cares, people that are trying to make an impact on your life, not only as a player, but as a full-time in life, we're trying to do everything we can for you, right? And show bats, we still got the promo going on right now.
We got the best bats for the best price. Really, if you need a wood bat, you got any wood bat tournaments, holler at us. We'll probably put a promo code or something around, maybe right here or right here. RJ, thanks for helping out again, doing the video. You're the man.
Thank you guys again. Logan Wells,
Thanks,
Shooter
guys.
Jeanette,
Thank you.
Clyde and Mike Metcalf.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mark, thanks for coming on. Peace out.